Selamat datang and welcome to Arts House. Welcome to the exhibition by the Malay Heritage Centre. So first of all, I think I would like to thank the AKA team. I don't know whether they are here for actually inviting the Malay Heritage Centre to be part of this festival. So yes, Malay Heritage Centre, as part of this festival, we were called or invited to do a small showcase. So essentially, this is MHC's first ever travelling showcase. As you all may know, MHC is currently closed until around late 24, hopefully positive, but it's 2025. So yeah, this is truly an opportunity to do a show lah, and I guess a precursor to the themes that are going to appear in the future galleries. So actually, I'm very very happy, very very blessed to be doing this show together with three very very inspiring, influential contributors or partners, or would you say collaborators. They are, of course, our speaker here for today, Ms. Uniata Effendi, founder of Gallery Toko Kita. Oh, all right. Also, her pieces are here, she will show you. The other contributor is seated right in front of me, Kebai Societe. The pieces were contributed also by Ms. Sufianto, another founder of Kebai Societe. Woo! And lastly, seated there, actually, Mr. Rosman Ithnain, a friend, a collector, and who has contributed to the Malay Heritage Centre's previous exhibitions as well. So truly honoured to be doing this alongside them. And actually, for me, it was truly a good opportunity to do this because it gives at least the Malay Heritage Centre an opportunity to talk about textiles beyond I would say beyond the common discourse that we have been accustomed to. Like, what do we wear during Hari Raya? Ratio how many days, etc. How many buttons are there on a baju kurung? All these common questions. But it's actually to go beyond that, to be honest. Textile, basically, essentially the argument for this curation, I would say, for this exhibition is textiles are more than just functional fabric. And this exhibition, or this showcase, I would say, aims to present from three different perspectives lah. From the perspective of a creator, basically a designer, a conservator, pemulihara lah. I would say, in my mind, I had this in three Malay words: pereka, pemulihara, and and pengumpul, which is basically a collector. So these three different perspectives essentially brings us to that question. What do we preserve in terms of heritage? How do we preserve heritage? And when we talk about the preservation, that's an angry person. But when we talk about the preservation of heritage, what do we truly mean by that? And here today, I think it's very nice that all of you are here because we can hear one facet of that, a personal story from Ms. Uniata Effendi. And I guess I wouldn't take too much time away from her because she's very excited to present, to talk today. And hopefully, it's an in-gallery conversation, so along the way, if you have questions, you can just ask. We don't have to limit ourselves to the end of the talk to speak. And I will also essentially chime in every now and then. So, Ms. Oinata, take it away.
Thank you, Zain. Thank you, MHC and the organizers from AKAR for doing this. I hope you can hear me. I hope I can hear myself because when the music came on, I thought, wow, got soundtrack behind, soundscape. But then, and I struggled a bit to hear because I think sometimes our brains are wired to prefer a certain sound to the other. So text to music, I think music, right? So I'll try my very best. If there's anything that you want to ask, please join along because this is essentially a conversation. So I hope it's not just me talking. So let's begin. The topic that I was given today by Zain was, we were going to talk about textiles. So Zain's been to my shop a couple of times, textiles, Malay textiles. So I want to clarify what today is going to be about. If you came because the slide said Busana Kebaya, we can talk about that. But I think we want to focus on textiles coming from the contributions from our friends from Kebaya Society as well as from Rosman himself. Now, if you look at this topic, the first thing we're always wired to do is to ask the question, what? Like, what Malay textiles? What motif? What does it mean? Unfortunately, I am not going to be answering the what question because it's going to take 3 days or 30 days or even 3 years to discuss songket, tenon, and the likes of everything, even all that you're saying here, telepok, block printing, and so on and so forth. So today's edition will be about batik. Is that okay with everyone? Now, I also wanted to ask myself this. If we're not going to talk about the what's of Malay textile, then how do we even begin? How are we going to enter this? And I ask this following question. Why? Now, I'm sure a lot of you who are seated here today would agree with me that you're probably here because you're very drawn to the traditional textile. Some of you are wearing it on your shoulder, on your body, on the bottom part of your body, and some of you hold it dear to your hearts because maybe you don't wear it, maybe you like looking at it. But why are we drawn to traditional textiles? And this is where I want to enter today to look at the relational aspect of you and the traditional textiles. Okay? So, in answering the question why, I'm going to ask you, what's your relationship with traditional textiles? Like, why? Why you keep all these things in your cupboard? Why are you wearing it? Why are you here? Why are you here wanting to learn about Malay textiles? So, can I have a show of hands? Who is ready to answer why, where your relationship with the Malay textile is? Come. I already have 2 people lah, but then I want the non-people, the ones that I did not pick in my head to ask. Why? Why are you drawn to traditional textiles? Whether it's Malay or it's Indian or it's a Chinese, Thai, whatsoever. Why are you drawn to it? Anyone at all? This audience is very naughty. Yes. Okay. I'm going to move. So, cameraman say I cannot move beyond this, so I will go like this, okay?
Because we have a textile all the time at our home from our grandmother's time.
Okay, what's your name, ma'am?
Latifa.
Latifa says that we have textiles all over the place in our home, in our grandmother's home. So, dalam rumah, in the house, we're surrounded by textiles. Anyone else? Why are we so drawn to it? So, that's familiarity, right? Of a batik cloth or other textiles. Wow, very jauh you all lah. Sorry, cameraman.
I think it's because of the distinct design that traditional textiles have as compared to modern wear, which is why I'm drawn to
Okay, what's your name?
Iman.
Iman says it's a distinct aesthetic design to the textile that is very different from the modern or the contemporary textile. So a distinct style to it. Okay? Anybody else? Okay.
Maybe it's the craftsmanship, you know, that takes hours to make a certain design, you know, that this is, of course, the work, the years of work, you know, like you put in and things like that. I think that's what's interesting, I think, that made me drawn to it.
If I had vouchers to give, I would give this to you. What's your name?
Ayu.
Ayu. Now, Ayu said something very interesting because I think what she's saying is honoring the work and the years of craftsmanship that has gone into traditional textiles. So some people are drawn to that because of that. I had one more hand that raised there. Yes. What's your name?
Yunho. So probably in a sense that different textiles and different symbols sometimes differentiate us from others. Yeah.
So you like to be different from others?
No, as in general, in society, sometimes people wear different textiles or use different symbols to define us and others.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So sometimes the textiles differentiate us from others, and it's interesting to study these patterns and relationships between others. Now, in this room, there are also 2 very special friends who have their pieces here. So I hope after today's talk, please pull out these things and see, because it's not just what's on top. You can pull the drawers out and speak to my friends. One of them is Rosman, whose splendid purple baju Melayu on a man there, I would like my husband to wear one day. Unfortunately, he's married, so that one I think is very kahwin, so you cannot wear that one, okay? And of course, this other purple stunning get-up, which I think was not planned, you didn't plan to match, right? Is something that Sufi has. He doesn't wear it, he collects it. And I've always wondered why with men, and why, what is their relationship with cloth? Why is it in your drawer? Why is it in your cupboard? Why are you having all this? So let's start with, I'll go to Rosman first, and then you, I see your face like very stressed like that, right? So, Abang Rosman, yes.
Sure. Okay. I'm basically a collector, but my interest is in my own heritage and history, and I find that the fabric of our region tells stories about our heritage and history, and about our commonalities, and that's my interest. I'm a Southeast Asianese. I'm Singaporean, but I'm Malay, and the textiles that I picked, like for example, for this exhibition, the songket, tells the story about the Malays, especially from the 50s and 60s, right? If you know about the Malays, we like to dress up, we like to be bejeweled as well, and when we get married, we want to be seperti Raja Sehari. When you become Raja Sehari, you'll dress up like a royalty, a bangsawan, and that was the best opportunity, for example, to wear the songket. A songket is a material that is worn by the Malays throughout the Nusantara. Of course, today people say, oh, this is Indonesian, this is Malaysian, or whatever, but whatever it is, the songket is a Malay textile. And culture and textile does not conform to today's political boundary. So for me, it was about a personal journey. And in some of the pieces are actually from my family collection. They're not very old. They are, I mean, the songket was popular during the 50s to perhaps early 70s. This kind of songket, there are still songkets being made today, but they are of a different aesthetic. I just want to highlight the aesthetic of the Malays in terms of songket. Typically, it will be a very strong color, a single color, and it's decorated with either silver or gold jewel. A very simple but a very effective aesthetic, right? And then another one was very popular in the 50s and 60s are what we call the kain songket bunga bertabur. I mean, these things mean to me because I have seen my parents got married in this songket. So when I look at old photographs, I decided to then look for these old pieces, and because of my interests, I traveled throughout to Malaysia and Indonesia to collect them. Yeah.
Thank you, Rosman. So it's very personal. He sees his family wears it. There is a connectedness to the aesthetics of it and all that. Okay, Kebaya Society, let's go.
Hello, I'm Sufi. I'm one half of Kebaya Society. So, why start collecting? But to answer Onyata's question first, what is Malay textiles? I think, or why we're drawn to Malay textiles. I think personally for me, it's the philosophy behind it. I mean, not all batiks in particular, or the songket may or may not have philosophy or reasoning behind them. But personally, I'm more drawn towards the Javanese batik, which has a lot of philosophy behind it. With regards to why we collect, I think it's more to expand the vocabulary of the different types of fashion that exist in our region. Because I think there's this preconceived notion that there's, you know, we're put in a box, you know, oh, the Malays, we wear baju kurung, Chinese wear chongsam, Indians wear sari, and, you know, the nyonyas, they wear the kebaya. But that's not the case, because if we look at our region as a whole, it's very diverse. There's a lot of shared culture and heritage. So I think for us, we collect it, and, you know, our relationship, not of just the kebaya, but anything fashion, I mean, it's important to us. And also from a perspective of a tailor myself, the construction of the garments from the 1900s up till the 1980s is very different from what we see today. So I think it's important to document and also share our own personal findings and research.
Thank you. Can you give my friends a round of applause, please? I think it's important for us to frame it in such a way so that you can actually relate to your own relationship with traditional textiles. So I was just looking at, you know, what's this thing with traditional textile, and I drew out some photos of my grandparents, my mom, my grandmother from my paternal side, grandparents from my maternal side that I've never ever met, and then of course my mother and her friends in different Malay silhouettes. Now, when I use the word Malay, it's interchangeable with the fact that we're Malays by identity cards in Singapore. Today's session is not about identifying, you know, what makes you Malay versus Indonesian. I've always seen myself as a child of the region, so we'll just use that term quite Nusantara-ly, okay? So what's this thing with traditional textiles? And I think we all agree, based on your responses, that yes, there is rich history, as you mentioned, and you want to expand that vocab, and there's substantial cultural value. Agree? Yes. Secondly, it's handmade, and Ayud said that as well. It's handcrafted and it's passed down through generations by skilled artisans. And lastly, it's not just aesthetically pleasing. Rosman has said it is very aesthetic, it's very attractive. But I think it's also that emotional as well as symbolic pull or significance in many societies, not just in the Malay society. I think that this idea of tradition and traditional textiles cuts across every culture, particularly where textiles are rich. I'm quite sure if we go to Kazakhstan and we see textiles of Central Asia, I think I'd probably be drowning in excitement and ecstasy in looking at textiles from that side of the world. So that's how I've seen how we are connected to that traditional textiles or relating ourselves to it also resonates with the kind of responses that you gave. Next slide, please. So I then asked myself, what is this relationship that we have with traditional textiles? And it's actually, the first response that I had from Kak Latifah was, it's a part of our lives, right? So it's such an essential part of our lives. It's universal in everyone's life. And so it has this role in our lives, an endless number of roles, in fact. And I kind of broke it down to the following. And see whether it resonates on any one of this or all of the above. It's practical. In the past, our nenek, my nenek would wear kain panjang to the waterfall. Did I think it's practical? I don't think so. I think she should wear Lululemons. But that's what they wore. It's practical for them. They just, sarong, and then that's it, right? It's personal. I think we can all agree on that. It's emotional, social. It is something that communicates. It's communicative. It's economic. It's aesthetic. And it's spiritual. On the note of communicative, I asked my daughter this. She's 19 and she was in the car with me this afternoon. I said, actually, why are you drawn to traditional textiles? Bear in mind, she's 19. She doesn't know much about batik. She just loves it. But I wanted to hear from her. And part of me was like underestimating my daughter, saying like, oh, because mommy wears it and she makes us wear it, therefore, right? But she said to me this, and it's actually on my notes, so I was quite happy with that. She said it's actually a way to express ourselves. I said, what do you mean, girl? And she says, like the vibrant colors will make me feel very happy, and so it lifts my spirits. And I think, yeah, so maybe there is some kind of a communicative thing. Our Mas Hafiz is not here today. He's always talking about the sarong. So today I wore this in ode of what Hafiz always says. You know the kain sarong that has a distinct panel on the cloth, as opposed to a kain panjang that doesn't have that distinct panel. That panel, in Malay, we call it the kepala kain, the main part of the head of the cloth. And so through Mas Hafiz, we learned this anecdote that where you position the head of the cloth actually communicates your status, your status. So if you're a virgin in the past, you can't go around walking the kampung and say, hello, abang, I'm available. So the kepala kain is in front. Because Malays don't go around talking to people like, say, nak kahwin aku tak? Tak boleh kan? You can't say that. So that cloth actually signals and then everybody goes, ooh, anak dara, right? But then when you're married, you wear in front. No, of course not lah. So you have to wear it at the back, which is why mine is swiftly positioned at the back to say that you're taken. Right, by you. And then of course, there is the slant right and slant left. So I'm not sure which is which. You have to ask Hafiz this. If it's slant one side, it is you are available, you were married, but you're divorced and you're available. And the other side kind of signifies your status, you're very rich or something. I don't know what that means because you're very rich, you're one man, is it? Is that what it is? So I think there is that communicative aspect that is very interesting because I think Hafiz calls it what? Sarong signals, is it? Sarong status. Like when you go on social media and people ask you whether you're married or it's complicated. So that's what the sarongs do. So today I wore mine for that reason. Let's move on. Now, in the work that I do, I'm always drawn to old pictures. And I think if you've not already done this, you should. That's a very old photo. That young girl is not me. She's my sister. She turns 60 next month. And that's my mother, who is so sexy in a kebaya kutu baru. Am I correct? It's not Bandung, right? It's a kutu baru. I have to check. And that's my grandmother, who wears the regular without the panel there. But what I did was I didn't realize that as I was doing the collection that is displayed behind me, among other images that I have, I will show you in a while, that we had actually done a photo shoot, my mother, so transpose this, my mother, myself, and my eldest daughter, 3 generations, in a photo shoot for the baju that I sell. And this collection is called Fertile, from the word fertility. I kind of compressed it to fertile, and it's actually because I was looking at the idea or the notion of fertility, or the Indonesian word for this is kesuburan, which talks about fertility, but kesuburan doesn't just refer to, or fertility doesn't just refer to a woman's ability to give birth to children. I think the notion of fertility is something where I had looked at abundance, I looked at growth, and I looked at continuity. So for some uncanny reason, there's this, transposing of the energies of what it was before, although I'll shame my sister when she comes back because she's wearing a white dress and not like my daughter wearing batik. But I think it's important for us to understand that because these textiles carry with it such strong narratives, when we are observing, when we are wearing, when we are collecting, I'm quite sure it sits in the minds of these people, particularly with yourselves here as you are sitting here and listening and looking at these pictures that I have. So let's move along. Next one, please. I wanted to ask myself then why am I here, and what was that reaction that I had that allowed me to do what I'm doing today? And I'm going to tell you a very naughty story that if it goes out to Malaysia, they will know that I told this story. In the year 2016, 2017, 17, is it? No, I think way before that. Somewhere in the mid-20s, 2010, 15, 16. I can't put a date to this. I think I tried to erase it from my system. I was starting, I started already, so 16, 17. I was already starting my little brand while I was studying, I was teaching, I was still an educator. And I was invited by a Malaysian designer to be involved in KL Fashion Week. And because I was younger, more excited when an invitation to collaborate comes, I say yes to everything, right? I'm a bit different right now. And this was what happened. They had asked me to source for batik fabrics. And they said that they wanted it to be part of a collection, some holiday or cruise collection, that will open at the KL Fashion Week. Can you imagine at that stage where you're just starting and then some Malaysian designer says, hey, and your name will be on the, what do you call this thing? Billboard, is it? So of course I said yes, and I went fabric sourcing. I went off to Indonesia to get that. I came back and I knew for the life of me, it was something I didn't think I should have done, but because I was too excited about it. And then they invited me to the, what do you call this? Runway fashion show, and somewhere here is the king's wife, and you're just like going through the entire celebrity list of Malaysia, and then suddenly your name's being tagged on social media, and what a stunning collection, and yes, I selected these fabrics. And then it hit to me that I think I had sold myself to the devil. With fast fashion, none of their fault, it's mine. With fast fashion, what they do is to take the original traditional textiles and they send it off to the printers in China. They photocopy it in bales, and therefore they can have units per look, the SKUs in the thousands. So as you sit here, because I'm so sensory as a person, I am the kind of person who takes batik and buy, and I will smell the batik squatting in a kampong and smelling it to a point my husband just looks and said, can you please stop being a pervert? But I smell batik. Can you imagine sitting on the front row and I could smell what we know as synthetic textiles, printed polyester, plastic, and it broke my heart. I think he was there with me, but he had another event across the road. Or were you seated with me? You were seated with me. And I think we had a bit of a whisper and said, oh my God. Thank God the brand was not there. It's just Onyata made the mistake. The brand didn't make the mistake. And this angered me enough to then create a full-on tulis collection. Because prior to that, I was playing with batik chap, hand-stamped with copper stamps like this. And I'll show you this in a while, because they were cheaper. I don't have investors and so on and so forth. So stamps are cheaper, easier to produce, easier to purchase. But after this, I realized cannot already. And so I was very inspired by the idea of a kamban, which is a breast cloth or a torso wrap that women in the past used before modest clothing ever covered them. And I brought some because I think you shouldn't just be looking at screens, you should be touching some textiles, because that's how I am when I learn. So the kamban is a breast cloth. Can you help me, Zin? And it's about this long. It's very long. And this is a traditional breast cloth or a torso wrap that wraps the women upper part of the torso. Thank you, darling. And upper half of the body, where this was the center, and then you see that nice red thing. So I was very interested in this. Let's pass it around. You've seen this 250 million times. And go ahead and open it up, smell it, touch it, look at the holes if there are any. And this is what it would look like if you put it on a woman's body. But what I liked about this was then I started being very playful with this traditional textile and started doing my first kabaya kamban that looks like this. So you see a torso wrap coming out halfway the kamban, and functionally it had to be secured by the belt, because otherwise this is just gonna flap, right? So this is how it started. I was angry with what I had done to myself, to the Malaysian group of friends, and then I wanted to come back with a vengeance to my cause in this batik world that I live in. And so I had this whole indigo hand-drawn batiks with 48 pieces only. Anyone in the fashion industry would think 48 pieces is a ridiculous small quantity to sell. How do you even make money? And I think that's where, as someone who loves the traditional textiles, it's never driven by how much money I intend to make. I think it's how much impact it leaves on the wearer. And so that's how it started. Could we have the next slide? I won't take you through 2018 all the way till today, so I'll fast forward to today. I mentioned about this, Fertil, and we want to talk about motifs, right? So a lot of you say there are distinct meanings. So the collection from Fertil actually looks at batik in the Javanese repertoire that holds a meaning or a symbol of fertility. This one here, that later if you pull out, can I pull this out, cameraman? Can?
I think can.
You think can?
Yeah, I mean
Zin
he
can? But they probably can't catch it. Oh, can. Leo says can. Can you imagine how fascinating this exhibition is? Can we give a round of applause to MHC for this? It's really like, wow, did I hit you, darling? Sorry. So if you see, that's the one here. Unfortunately, we cannot open lah. I didn't bring this as well. So these are stitched pieces already. And that one has this like diagonal thing that goes this way. The motif is called udan liris. Udan liris actually means hujan gerimis lah. So this is the collection I have where I realized that rain is a symbol of fertility, isn't it? So we don't just look at women who can beranak children. We're looking at the soil that is fertile, and then plants and fruits will grow. We're looking at a country that is fertile in ways that you define what fertility is. Is it economics? Is it good governance? Is it a good president? And then the company can, the country can flourish and be fertile. So this is hujan gerimis. Can we have the next one? So I'm very fortunate because I called two of my friends, one from Indonesia and the other from Malaysia, Marina Mahathir and Widi Mulia, who is an actress in Indonesia. You know who Marina is. And they were happy to wear the collection because I think in telling the story, it can't just be about me and my mother and my daughter, right? I want to also showcase other women wearing Fertil as part of their day-to-day. And that's the kabaya kamban that is an exact opposite of this. And this the kabaya pesak, which is the slightly looser silhouette of the kabaya that doesn't hug you the way the Peranakan ones do. And I think it's very flattering for middle-aged women like myself who don't want to wear ketat-ketat. I think I aspire to go back to that one day, Sufi, but I will stick to my pesas for now. And the cloth were all commissioned for this collection. So if you look at shops that sell batik, it could be that they buy from sellers elsewhere or they have suppliers, but the work that I do revolves around going to work with the makers directly and telling my story so that the maker can take it away and collaborate with me in helping tell my story through textiles. Now, these two motifs and this one, every piece is in a different one. These are from the Batik Semen collection. When I show you the word, the men are just going to gasp. And then this one is called Buah Hati, the one that was baby blue. So let's take a look at Buah Hati. The one that I've displayed here actually has the buah rambutan. And that's durian, the motif. Delima, which is pomegranate. And manggis, which is mangosteen. No pineapple, sorry. I think next year, maybe I can do one of the nanas, Naughty, my husband. Now, so the tulis chanting, right, for this is the standard one that looks like your regular pen nib. And every chanting has a different kind of width. So the finer it is, you even have chanting nol, which means 0. It's so fine. The more fine the work is on your batik, the more expensive it is. The fat nibs, that one is a little bit cheaper. So if you know all this, right, when you go, you can go and get your price proper. Don't go and let people con you and all that, right? So this is a tulis chanting, which I will move from here. Now, for this collection, if you notice, you can't use a normal chanting, guys. You have to use the nitik chanting. And if I show this around to you, it's actually broken with 4 things sticking out so that it's a square. It's not like your pen nib. And so nitik actually means dot. So can you imagine a cloth like that is niticked individually to get that effect that looks like pixelation? It's all done by hand. Yeah? So a lot of people come into my shop and say, "Wow, this one printed." The word printed is not allowed in my shop. It's against the religion of batik to say printed because it clashes with the word print and technology of printing. So we use the word motif. And so as I was saying, fairy tale, right? Fruits and then flowers. Now this one is tulis and we actually applique this. You can take a look at that when you pull that one out, but this is all the other fruits. So the second chanting that comes around is the nitik chanting that has the spouts, 4 spouts. You can touch it and scratch yourself if you want. Okay. The next slide, please. When I had posted this on Instagram, the men just went, "Huh? Batik semen? Naughty you are. I know lah, you're talking about fertility. Then why you want to talk about semen?" Actually, the Javanese call it batik semen. Can you say it with me? Semen. Very good. And it's actually from the word semi, bersemi. And so when things bersemi, it actually talks about growth and sprouting. Okay? But quite synonymous to growth and sprouting in the English sense lah. Okay? Now, this lady here wears the semen motif. I think my husband has a semen motif on him. Just checking your batik shirts. You have the Garuda, but you had the kawung at the back. So I want to show you this. How did I come about doing this? This is a very big piece. That's not if you think it's very long. So this cloth I bought in a kampung at Imogiri in Jogja. Balik. Yeah. And it's got the entire semen collection of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 3 is 24. 24 different semens. Classical motifs, the Javanese love it. But believe me, and you can see the names here. Semen Kladuk, Slemen, Sinom. You can see later, I pass to you. And this has been in my cupboard for the longest time before I started the business, right? And then I took it out and I said, I have to find this lady. And it was so funny because I forgot what her name was, but I have a picture because I document my travels. And I know the kampong she lives in. is near the other kampung that makes my batik. So I called the other kampung and I said, Mbak, kamu kenal nggak orang dari Imogiri? Oh ya silakan Mbak, namanya apa? Lah, aku nggak tahu namanya, I don't know her name. Aku ada fotonya, I have a photo. So I sent the photo to Mbak Fitri from the other side. Oh, ini Ibu Jiarti. And then Ibu Jiarti's name came into my handphone contact. So that's how they're so competitive, but so generous in sharing resources and respectful of each other's strengths and all that. So with that, I communicated with her and finally used that as a catalogue to produce the cement collection that I have. Now there are ornaments on the cement, like a 4-feet animal, birds, there are plants, there's a building, there's a mountain, there's wings of an eagle, and all this bear a significance or a meaning in the cement collection. Now I'll tell you a fresh funny story with the Indonesian. When I sent this to Indonesia to be worn, so not every Indonesian understands motifs either. I learned through reading, and I have a rigorous process of speaking to batik lecturers in Indonesia so that I clear my content first. So she says, it's very hard for you to sell your batik in Indonesia. I said, oh really, why? These are hand-drawn. Mak engkau ada orang kahwin pula.
Somebody's getting married.
Yeah, cement, fertility. It's very hard for the young people to buy into this. And I said, why? And she said, because this one is government office wear one, she says. Kopri. So I was like, Kopri? So I actually Googled Kopri is what? So it's actually like if you work for the government and then you have the shirts that you wear that they print out. It's all these motifs that they see on their government offices in the shirt. So it's not sexy lah. If you're going to wear that, then you're actually not very sexy to wear a uniform that office, ministry or so-and-so wear that. So, and then I realized actually, no, the Kopri ones, when I actually studied the motifs, they are based on the classical motifs because, of course, the Javanese want to take the meanings from this to embody the companies that they represent or the kementerian, the ministry that they represent. So, somewhere along the way, the education has this gap. Yeah? Okay, so that's the batik cement. Let's move on. And then if you pull this one out, macan means, the last one, okay? Macan, who knows what is macan in Bahasa Jawa? Macan. Don't know? Tiger, very good. So I made this collection called Macan Mana. I actually brought one piece for you so you can touch, because MHC cover with screen. The motif...
We have to protect.
Have to protect the cloth. Terbalik. The other way. You take that side. Oh, okay. You want to take the whole thing. I've actually taken the Sekar Jagat motif. So these islands that you see, they all hold a different motif. And predominantly they are parang because I wanted to tell the story of the tiger last year. Last year, the Lunar New Year, the tiger was the year, it was the year of the tiger, right? So I wanted, and I'm the tiger, so that's why I was so excited about it. And then in 2 of these islands, there is a tiger each. So can you find it? It's like watching Where's Wally, right, on your magazine and then trying to figure out where that stripy thing is. Can you find the tiger? Can? One here, one on Zain's side. So Macan Mana, Where's Wally, Where's the tiger? This one's the white tiger, that's my favorite, but the brown one has the orange one. And I've actually have this panel as well, like a Kepala Kaya, and I was playing with the idea of Udang Liris, not realizing that the year after the Udang Liris made it to the collection for Fertile. Let's have this around, and at the corner of these commissioned pieces, there is the brand Baju Bayoniata. So I think what my hopes are in our understanding of traditional textiles, we wear it. Yeah, everybody's so proud of it. Like, oh yeah, I wear what? I wear for Hari Raya. I wear for Kenduri. Oh, when I attend Akar, I wear baju Melayu. But then there are those that wear it every day, like Hafiz,
made it
and
here.
this 2 gentlemen here, one with Songko and one with the Tanja, he's right here. There's a certain pride in wearing it, but not everyone wears it, right? But how do we then elevate that appreciation? How do we say that we're proud of our traditional textiles, our Malay traditional textiles, beyond claiming that we dress our children up for Racial Harmony Day every year, so we appreciate. I think it needs to be more than that. And my suggestion is to break it down to 3 things. The first is to examine the language, the metaphor, and the myth. And I think there are strong social metaphors in all traditional textiles, which you and I can agree on. And then observe the way culture positions cloth along the mortal journey. You do realize that all these milestones in our lives, as Javanese or loosely called Malays, the batik is so present. They are the cloth that carries the baby as a gendongan. There is the cloth that the woman who is about to get married, about to give birth, wraps around her body, and then they have the siraman process. There is the cloth that you wear to get married. Some motifs you cannot. Then, of course, there's the cloth that covers you at your final send-off. On that note, I always have these morbid conversations with mom about death. I'm a caregiver to 2 + 1 elderly, and death is present. Not because we look and say, oh, you are going to die, no, but the acknowledgement that you actually do see an entire cycle when you have elderly in your house. And so I've always asked mom, and I said, Ma, why the funeral cloth always brown color? Because as a child, when I go for funerals, the body is always covered in something brown. And I almost always get very frightened and almost don't like the brown batiks. I'm trying to draw myself closer to that, right? And then she says, it's practical, Onyata. If your body is unwell or you had gone through an accident and you're bleeding and you're waiting for someone to clean you before you get wrapped up in a white cloth on your final rite, you have to preserve the dignity of the body of the person who has passed away by covering it with a brown cloth. So if there's any fluids that stain the cloth, it can't be seen, and it doesn't offend anyone, especially the beloved that's right there. So I asked her, but I want ours to be blue and white, can or not? She says can. In fact, the Chinese, the significance of blue and white is tuaha color, right? That blue and white people wear because it's a mourning color. So she said can, but then if bleeding, then you just make sure that it doesn't turn red lah. But if you delve deeper, it's not just colors, it's also motifs. So you can't have a parang motif on your body because parang is worn by people who are going to war. They're courageous, they're powerful. You're going to war with who now? After you die already? No more war, it's over, right? And you can't be having all these motifs with animals on it. It just doesn't work. So there's a Javanese motif called the slobok. This one I just learned, and this is the one. So I've not shown this to anyone, not even my mom. I keep talking about it, and she says, kain tu kat mana? Where is the cloth? I said, it's at the shop. Kau pun bodoh. Then kalau aku mati, she says, if I die, then you got to go to the shop and go and take the cloth, is it? I said, yeah, that's right. So I think today I will actually show her the cloth. And then the second one is, so that's the mortal journey. And the last one is to uncover the myriad of roles that traditional textiles play in our daily life. And I think this goes to the idea of what it means to you. When you look at something of Malay aesthetics, there are actually 6 aesthetic principles. And I'm going off book right now because I think Zain wanted me to say this and I just remembered. You always ask yourself, why is it your mother or your grandmother in all those black and white photos, why is always the Malay woman is so well put together? What is it that they have that I want to learn from, right? I'm not saying that other people don't have. I'm just saying, what is it that puts the Malay woman so put together? Even my grandma, right? That photo of my grandma with the sunglasses and this massive bag. There are 6 aesthetic principles to this. The first one is berguna. Berguna is useful. What is the use of it? And then there is, oh my God, I'm going off cuff. Berlambang, meaningful. What does it symbolize? And then aesthetically, as you look at it, bersatu, which is unity. There's something that unites it. The next one is berlawan, that has contrast. And then there's berhalus, that is finesse. And then there is bermakna, the meaning. So that is another 3-hour lecture altogether if we want to unpack every aesthetic principle. If you want to look through Rosman's pieces and his eye for songkets and the collection from Kebaya Society, I'm quite sure these 6 principles will hit in every spot. You can even look at kite making using this principle. You can look at What other aesthetic things are there in the Malay traditional world besides fashion?
But there's wood making as well.
Wood making, all these things that you find in the Malay aesthetics, there is the 6 principles that kind of fit in. Which is why when you ask people about busana Melayu and you wonder whether the kebaya can be separated from the sarong, right? And then you see us young people in, who was that city? Prof. Zainon said, right, kebaya, and then after the girl night bus with hot pants. And then we have this reaction like, oh, why like that, right? But we ask ourselves, why are we judging it like that? Why? Can what? But then if we go back to the 6 principles, and then you realize why, where's the finesse in that? You see what I mean? So they're not judgy because you're some old person with standard values, like, oh, you know, these people tak ada adab, right? So I think we need to find that vocab to understand these aesthetics, which we can discuss another day. Next, please. Now, I wanted to talk about this as well. Baju had the opportunity to go to Paris in 2021. It was quite an amazing journey for me. I've always just played in Singapore. Regionally, my dream is to do a traveling pop-up. But to be invited to do this, I called it Bonjour Baju, so good morning Baju, and we had our batik tulis showcased. Now I had a workshop there, right? We're talking about elevating your appreciation. So the organizer had said, oh Nyata, can you do a workshop? Can we charge money? He says, try not to unless there's a certain angle that they take something back. So I said, okay, we can do an appreciation workshop. Because at the back of my head, I'm going to be in Paris, in Le Marais, which is like the arty place, and all these Parisians are just going to come, and I can talk about batik and what does textile mean to you. And then on that Friday afternoon, I had 8 people seated at my table to talk about batik and presumably to sketch some patterns which I propose at €55, I can bring the thing back to Solo to get it batik and to come back to you. 8 of them were all Indonesians. Can we have the next slide? Sister, very scared. I looked at my set of notes and I wondered, Onyata, oh my God, how are you going to do this? It's okay, Onyata, the show has to go on, right? It's just 1 hour, just talk to them. So I asked them, what does batik mean to you? And again, the stupid girl that I am, thinking the answers would be like, oh, my grandmother used to wear, things like that, right? As I thought people would say that, oh, I'm very drawn to the Asian textile. But no, the first lady said, my relationship to batik is this. She said, she would never step into batik keris anymore. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going into brands already, yeah? She's not going to step into batik keris anymore. And she said, because her aunt and uncle used to have a perusahaan batik, so they had a batik business in the kampung. And then the plot of land next to it was taken over, bought, I assume, by the makers of batik keris. And they had developed a factory next to these small houses. And because of that, resources all were taken. This is what she told me. And as a result, the family's business diminished. So, and she was in tears. And I'm like, oh my God, Onyata, what did you just do? These people are really telling heartfelt stories. Another lady was a curator at a batik museum somewhere in Jogja. And so all I said there, all I did was to listen, because I think that's the best way to go. And I knew, I told myself, oh, your €55 can just fly out. They're not going to draw this. They're not going to do your workshop. Just let them talk. And everybody did. In fact, I had it all scribbled on my iPad. I haven't transcribed any of that for 2 years. And at the end of the session, which extended beyond the 1 hour for the entire workshop, at 1 hour 20 minutes, they were still talking. The organizer said, I think we need to start the next workshop soon. I said, you move to another venue. And then I introduced the work that we were going to do to look at batik making in the various stages, which at this point I was gaslighting myself and saying, no need already lah, they know the stages already. But lo and behold, they realized that for €55, if they did this, they wanted that cloth that they merely sketched with pencil to go to their country. It's like their hometown, isn't it? To back home, batiked by their people and sent back to them. And of the 8, every one of them paid €55 for this. I don't think I made much money from that because the postage is one thing, the process is one thing. But that was such a humbling experience when you got to know when to listen and when you have to listen really, really hard. But the other thing that happened at this was at the Vernissage, which was the opening night. The ambassadors of Southeast Asia were all there. So Brunei lah, Malaysia lah, Cambodia lah. And then Indonesia sent the wife to the ambassador. And so we had a lovely conversation. And then her entourage came and she said, kenal kan, ini Onyata. So this is Onyata. Dia designer Indonesia tapi bertempat di Singapura. So she's the Indonesian designer that's based in Singapore. So being the Singaporean, everything must be correct. I stopped her on her tracks and I said, maaf ya Bu, saya sebenarnya orang Singapura, tapi saya bekerja sama pengrajin di Indonesia. So I'm Singaporean, but I work with makers in Indonesia. And then she gave me this look of disbelief. And she said, lah, tadi kata kamu nenek kakek dari Indonesia. So she said, your grandparents are from Indonesia. I said, yes. That means, and she went to English, that means you're one of us, she says. And at that point, you know, your head goes into these monologues about the idea of what it means to be Malay and holding textiles, right? And then you ask yourself, oh my God, I have to fight this until she understands that I am Singaporean. But no, if Onyata's aim is to see herself as a child of the region, playing with textiles that belong to her neighbors, then this was the invitation that I've been waiting for, to be part of a larger community who has accepted what I am doing with their textiles and with fashion. And with that, I think I've come to a close. Please come and visit us at 7578 North Bridge Road. I thought I should just plug this in. Matur nuwun means thank you in Javanese, and I leave you to ask me questions if you have any.
Wow, my goodness, I think I've ran out of superlatives to describe what Onyata has basically shared. But also I think it is truly, I think you have brought upon to us like a personal journey for the collection and for the preservation of textiles. I think I won't hold back myself. I mean, I think I'll open the floor for questions because I think is one opportunity to ask Chuni her questions. So any questions from the floor? From the Hafiz Rashid, the latecomer wants to ask.
Thank you for shaming me for my tardiness. Right. I have questions directed to both of you. First of all, to Kak Oni, as someone who works with traditional textiles, the word traditional itself can be daunting to people because it represents, or it's a term loaded with being stagnant, being trapped in a time capsule. So for yourself, you are doing. You are working with traditional fabrics, but also in the realm of fashion itself. And fashion is continuous. It moves and evolves with the people, with the time itself. So how do you negotiate this in terms of creating new motifs? Do you rely on the 6 aesthetics? Or is there a framework in which you, okay, let's say if I want to add a tiger, which is not a traditional motif, into a batik piece, or in the traditional Lasamin style, how do you negotiate with that? And lastly, with regards to the aesthetics, is it something that you feel it has to be learned or taught as you grow up very naturally within the community, that the aesthetics is there? You don't have to like really memorize and read from the book that is this 6 aesthetics. And for Zain, as a docent, I am within the system, but also outside the system. We are, in a way, the gray zone between the public as well as with the curation itself. So I'm very curious in the portrayal of textiles. Textiles cannot be separated from, let's say, the human body because the nature of textiles is meant to be worn. So how is it as a curator, or what is your thought process or framework in terms of bringing forward the stories of these textiles in a way that is curated, that brings justice to both the traditional usage of a textile as how it's meant to be worn, but at the same time as an artifact which is in a way removed from its context. Yeah, so that's my questions.
Difficult questions, but yeah.
I take first the first question. I need to tell my brain sometimes he asked 2 questions, what was the second one? So I'll answer the first one for you. I think you're also looking at tradition and innovation, right? Because I think you're absolutely right, tradition is so loaded. And sometimes you also don't want to go into this imposter syndrome, like I think I know everything, but actually I don't. And my background has never been textiles or art history or business or fashion. I was an educator. I'm a teacher. I am someone who advocates asking questions, and that's how I function. And I think in order for me to navigate and to innovate these motifs, I am always having conversations with the pengrajin. So collaboration doesn't mean I tell you, bapak buat gini ya, saya mau warna biru, terus saya mau macannya di sini. I want this color blue, I want this blue, I don't want this blue, I want this tiger. No. In fact, I think you have to have a certain level of respect and reverence and regard to tradition. And that also comes in the way you speak to them and how you communicate your aspirations or whatever visions that you have. So for example, when we did the Macan piece for Lasem, right? So I had this vision of wanting to use a very Lasem motif for the Isan, which is at the back. And then I had this vision like, I don't want one tiger, I want the whole cloth to be tiger. I went mad lah. Of course, the Chinese people were warning me because they said, be careful lah, you don't go and overboard now. The tiger, the gods will be very angry. I say only one god in my religion, so don't worry, my intentions are very good. But then, right, this angry energy, actually I feel it now. This is where I go into this other realm, right? When I wear this, I don't like it. I don't feel that I'm Onyata, but people actually like this piece. I don't know why. Maybe it's the Chinese people are right lah. You don't overboard too many tigers, with the god very angry. So I asked the permission. I said, could we have tigers on this? How many tigers can we have? Is it going to offend you if we do this? Even with the Sekar Jagat, please go and touch and smell and whatever you want to do with it. Even with the Sekar Jagat, the one with the hidden macans, right? I did ask, Mbak, ini kalau ada macannya di sini, terus macannya satu kayak gini, macannya satu kayak gini, can or not, right? And he said, lucu banget, Ibu Oni. So they're quite, open to these things. But I told myself, if she didn't like it and she says cannot, then you shut up and move backwards and don't force it, right? And the other way with innovation is this. I think one of the things that we have to understand with tradition is it takes time. And with time, it means you have to be patient. And with patience, it means if they tell you it's 3 months, but you want it in 2 months, then cannot lah. So there are times when I have to learn the hard way when I said, Mbak, ini udah lebih dari 3 bulan nih Mbak, there's more than 3 months. Mana batiknya? Where is the batik? It's already more than 3 months. Aduh, cepet sikit lah Mbak. And sometimes, there was once I got a response that said, kalau gitu nggak apa-apa lah ya udah, I've already siap this much. But it just can't dry because it's been raining. And then you feel really bad, like because you're such a bitch, right? And you're such a, go-getter. I'm this Singaporean that needs my production timeline is already overrun. But then who am I kidding? It's just me and my clients who have to wait a bit longer lah. So I think these values within tradition teaches you, or you allow yourself to revisit very basic manners, respect, regard, reverence to the process and to the people, through the way you behave and through the language that you use as well. What's your second question?
My second question is on aesthetics. You mentioned about the 6
Oh
principal
yes,
aesthetics.
must learn or you have it, is
yeah,
it?
correct.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I can't speak about other races. So I'm talking about Malay textiles and tradition. I think we all have it. I think every Malay woman has it. I think every Malay man has their aesthetic thing. Even if you look at them and if you go on a date and then the boy, in traditional textiles, so not an Under Armour t-shirt and jeans, not counted, traditional, okay? Traditional, when you wear your traditional garment. I think it's instinctive that for the Muslim woman, when they wear the hijab with the kabaya, there is a certain unity, but there's a certain contrast. If you look at photos of our politicians, for example, how, now I can say our previous president and how she dons herself, right? You may not like her silhouettes because it looks a bit stiffish, but that's how she feels the finesse is for her. That's how she pairs her tudung with her stiffish kabayas. That's how she wears her kain like a mermaid more than like Saloma. So I think these are things that are personal and you have it with you, but how it manifests is quite a preference thing lah. Yeah.
I have an additional question, on top of that, because...
You have a question to answer.
Yeah, after this. So basically, do you think it's important for someone to start, if a person wants to start collecting, does he or she have to consider like, is this a batik tulis, ke batik cap, ke batik print? Do you think that's important?
No, I think you should collect what you want to collect. If you like it, buy it. But I think the knowledge of what it is important. Don't buy and then you tell people, I bought this from this place in Jogja, and the person says tulis, no, I paid $300 for this, and then you come to me to authenticate it, and I'm going, actually, bro, I think you kena con. You know what I mean? So I think you can collect whatever you want, but that knowledge, ilmu of the busana or the textiles is so important. So learn, read. I don't know everything either, but I have a very nice library at my office, which I welcome you to come and see.
She does. She does have a nice library. Okay, just to answer Hafiz's question, just to recap. First of all, I think if you haven't been on a tour with Hafiz, you should, because he supplements because there's only so much we can show during an exhibition, and sometimes what we show is sort of authoritative in a way, like because it's sometimes directed or it's sometimes discussed with your bosses, blah blah blah, etc. So there's a certain direction that we want, but it will always be edited in a way. So if you have a chance to jump on a docent tour guided by Hafiz, you should. And I think to answer Hafiz's question, I think this is it's somewhat personal to me right now at this point, because I challenged the idea of exhibition. I try to challenge the idea of exhibition making in some sense, because I feel that what we have currently in our museums, sometimes they can be quite static, because at the same time, because we want to show artifacts, right? So technically we do have artifacts on a pedestal and then on a certain roller or height. But I just feel like sometimes I think we need to challenge the way we want to display in terms of curation. So for example, this exhibition, I think it's just one of the ways that we had an adjustable rod of some sort, and then we try to make things pull out, some sort of a trunk. That's more interactive, but I think to answer your question, that is essentially my answer. And also, I think we do have to pair curation, exhibition with programming as well to make to make the stories more alive in some ways. Or sometimes if you have budget, you put soundscapes, etc. Because I don't think an exhibition can be that silent. If not, it's just, I don't know, it's just like your cabinet or something. This is of course with regards to textiles, but of course with regards to the material culture, I think it applies the same way. For me, I'm trying to find those aesthetic principles behind curation, even for my own, because I just feel like it should be, the idea of exhibition, it has to be challenged. I think that's how I'm approaching it right now. Yeah. I think we can open up to perhaps one more question before. I think you can also explore the textiles and also engage with the contributors or collectors personally. Anyone has one more question?
Oh, you want to say? If you don't, I want to show one last cloth.
Sure. Go ahead.
And it's very precious to me. This one belongs to my mom. She started giving me cloth already because she said, sebelum aku mati, aku kasih kau dulu. Reason being, when grandma passed away, so she said in Malay, before I die, I give you first. Because she said when grandma passed away, the kains went missing. So nobody really knows. And this happens in the Malay household, no? The kain hilang. And nobody knows. And then of course, there's all these theory that says this auntie took, that auntie took, right? That's very interesting, right? Malay textiles. So, there is one piece that my cousin owns, and nobody questions why she owns it, but she has this kain that is a pagi sore, so one left side different pattern, right side different pattern, and it was nenek's piece. So I borrowed it once, and the one side has spider webs, and the other side has the plants that the spider web goes to, something like that. I didn't put it on the thing because I saw this today as I was leaving, and I borrowed it once for a talk, and then of course I delayed in giving back, and my cousin was very angry with me, but I returned it to her. Now one day, a friend of ours, I will not name names, had come to my shop and showed me a picture of the exact spider web on my late grandmother's kain. But it's not a pagi sore, it's a full kain panjang with that spider web image. And I asked him how much, and he gave me a very good price for it. It wasn't like $600 kind of thing, it was something very, very affordable. And he says, I don't know, should I secure this? You think nice, not nice? I said, can you buy it for me? And so he did. And when it finally arrived, I opened it. And then it was so beautiful. I met a friend who had a photo of his grandmother wearing the spider web exactly like this. And she was in her 80s. And she said, awak nak kasih balik kain saya? You want to give me back my cloth, is it? And I said, oh, cik, bukan, this is my cloth. Nak tunjuk, because she showed me a picture and she was reminded her of that. So now, this is the thing, I brought the cloth back home. My father is 86 this year. When this happened, it was probably 4 years ago, I was 82. He has dementia. So he doesn't remember very many things. But you know, with these old folks, their memories of the past is so, so strong. They remember, like my dad knows Rosman's father and so on and so forth. And so when I brought this back, and he looked at it, and I think he looked at Mom, and he said, Onyata simpan kain mak. So Onyata's holding my mother's cloth. This is my mother's cloth, he said. It is the exact spider web that Grandma had, except Grandma's was the pagi sore. So it's really wonderful how textiles allows you to, transport yourself into another time and space with the old people that live in your house through this textile. So Dad believes that this is his mother's. It's both sweet, it's also a bit bitter and sad, right? But I hold this very precious to me, the story of that spider web. Yeah. So I thought I wanted to end with that, and how the textile actually carries memories with you as it grows with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chiwoni. I think this has been a very educational talk, and I hope that all of you are learning as much as I do, because honestly, some of these pieces I have not seen before as well on my own, and despite the fact that I've been to her shop quite a few times. So I think before we end, I hope you can scan for your participation. To give, of course, because I feel that we should bring such programs back. I think this is why it's so important to not just attend an exhibition, look at artifacts and go, but also to give us, if it's good, let us bring it back. And we can tell our bosses, hey, let's bring it back. I keep saying that, but yeah, we should. But yeah, we should. I mean, these are quite important for us. I think it goes beyond just viewing an exhibition. So thank you so much. And I think you should stay. I mean, all of you can stay around and then speak to Rosman and of course Kebaya Society who are here today to sort of, because I see some of you actually did pull out some of these textiles. Maybe you want to know a bit more about the motifs, about when did they originate from, where did they originate from. So I think, yeah, do stay around. The space is open until 8 p.m., I think. And there are programs that accompany throughout the weekend and tomorrow as well. So thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you for your support. And thank you so much, Yuni. All right. Thank you so much.